Hi guys, Dr. Crocker here. I am so excited to have you join me for this IG live. I have Dr. Campbell on and I'm honestly a little nervous because he is a seasoned professional with interviews and things, but I'm really excited to have him on and learn a little bit more about his journey to becoming a small animal surgeon. I know that surgery is a huge specialty that a lot of students and young veterinarians are interested in or pursuing. And so I think it would be really great to hear his story and his take on his experience and his journey. So we are going to get him on here. I've been doing a little research on him, so I have some things to ask him about and to bring up, and I think that it's gonna be fun. So if you're interested in surgery, drop that in the comments. I would also love to see where you're from. I always like to know about who is watching, and especially if you're watching because you're interested in surgery, I think that that is awesome. And then I will get him on here. Ooh, it says he's unable to join. Let me see if there's a way for me to change that. Dr. Campbell, it's telling me I can't ask you to join, but it looks like you're watching. So can you change your settings maybe, or request that you can join, or write in the chat if you can hear me, see me, or if you're having problems, and we will try to figure it out. I appreciate that. Not interested in surgery, but you enjoy listening to me chatter. That's awesome. Gabby is procrastinating because they have exams. Listen, I get it. That would be tricky, the exam part of it. I am really happy to be done with school, and I did not pursue a specialty because I did not think that I could do another couple of years doing a specialty. So let me try again and see if I can request him to join. I'm assuming there might have been some settings on his Instagram that made it where I couldn't ask him to join me live, because it's probably pretty popular and probably a lot of people want to chat with him. So I'd probably lock things down. That's what I would do if I was not able to be available all the time. Oh, good. We have some people interested in surgery. Wait, in Cohen. That's cool. So my mentor in vet school was Dr. Noah Cohen. So that's kind of a fun name. Nicola, hi. Welcome. Thanks for watching. Again, just to update y'all, we are trying to get Dr. Campbell on here. He was on here and then it said I couldn't ask him to join. So I think he was going to adjust some settings on his Instagram and then try again. If we can't get him on, then I will restart this. You know how technology is. So far, I've actually been really happy that all the guests have been able to make it on and we worked it out. But of course, when I'm really excited to talk to somebody, it's not going to go seamlessly, but that's okay if you guys can hang in there. I appreciate it. So if you're interested in surgery, there's a lot of different types of surgery. A lot of specialists will either kind of go the orthopedic route or soft tissue. And so if you have a surgery interest, you have a way that you would want to go. I will tell you, I dislike orthopedics. I do not enjoy them. I do not appreciate them. So if you want to do orthopedic surgery, more power to you. I want to cut off all of the things. He said he tried to request to join. I know, and I tried to pick you and it said I can't request you. So I'm assuming it's something in maybe your Instagram settings that won't let you join. I don't know. I haven't had anyone yet that I can't like pick and that I can't ask to join. So I'm a little stumped about it. I'll be real honest with you. Does anyone else know? Is there a way that you can make it where you can't request to join lives, or is this just, I don't know what's going on technology wise? When you tried to request it, what did it say, Dr. Campbell? And then if you have any questions for Dr. Campbell, you can drop them in the comments and we can make sure to ask him what those are. Nicola's trying to get experience in cardiology. Cardiology surgery, that's like putting together two extremely difficult things, but that's very, very cool that you're interested in that. It seems like you're a gunner, and I definitely think you can do it, which would be awesome. Dr. Zen says if your Instagram is private, then possibly I can't ask you to do it. So, let me see. I'm going to try to invite you in a different way. Oh. And let's see what happens. You should just be able to click it and say you want to join, but let's see what happens. Tell me if you get the request and if you can get it or not. Oh, yes. You're private. I knew it. I knew you were locked down. Listen, if I had as much going on as Dr. Campbell and I was all over the place and my face was everywhere, I would probably have my account locked down too. So let's see if he changes his settings, if we can get him on here.
There we go. Hey, what's going on? How are you?
I'm so excited. I will tell you that much.
I'm so sorry, first and foremost, that this was, it turned out to be a technological snafu.
You are fine. You're fine. I'm glad that we had people who could help us and say, hey, maybe this is the problem, because I never know how to fix it. I'm just sitting here going, can we please fix this? Because I really want to talk to him. So I appreciate you.
Oh my goodness. Oh, first and foremost, how are you doing? This is so incredible.
I'm doing really well. I've had a good day off, a good weekend off, and I'm going into spring break. I'm actually about to be off the whole week, which is, you know.
Wait a minute. You're going off the full week?
Yes.
And it sounds like you're just rubbing that in. Is that what you're doing?
No, what I like to do is I like to let people know you can work somewhere where you can actually take off for a week and they don't bother you and you actually get to like reset and spend time with family. So I like to make sure people know that vets do take breaks and vacations occasionally, and that's okay too, right?
Sure. No, and listen, that you've been really big about that, and you've been a fierce advocate for work-life balance. You know what I mean? And I've heard other people throw the term around work-life harmony, because you may not always be balanced depending upon how insane that particular week is. And so, listen, we'll get into it. We're going to get into it today. Okay, this is going to be absolutely crazy. We're going to talk about everything. But before we do, I have to tell you this story. Okay. This just happened to me like I think like 2 days ago. Okay. It happens all the time. But I'm doing relief for another hospital, and on the roster it says Courtney Campbell. You know what I mean? And so people are looking at that. They're like, okay, Courtney Campbell, blah blah blah. And like as the technicians are ruminating around, like, oh, okay, when is she showing up? What's she gonna look like? All this sort of stuff, right? And when I walk through the door, they aren't thinking necessarily of a Courtney Campbell like this. In fairness, Dr. Crocker, they're kind of thinking of you. So what I want to know is, talk to me about your first name, and if you ever had a situation where people were like, okay, that's not what I was picturing.
120% all the time.
Okay.
And it's a Dutch family name, but it looks so, I guess, ethnic. And so people don't envision that I'm going to be this blonde white girl.
Right.
And I actually, it's been interesting for me because it's like the flip side of probably what you experience a little bit, because I will have people say, I actually had someone say, make sure you send a picture with your resume so people know what you look like, because you might not be hired or people might not. And I'm like, I don't want to go somewhere that wouldn't want to hire me because they don't think I'm white. So this is like going there really quick. But I think listen, I wanted to go there immediately. With me, it's fearless. I'll just go there in a minute. Now, the question I have is it you said it's a Dutch name. Is it pronounced different in Dutch, or? It is. I think it's a little more tenet J or something like that. It's like an emphasis on the middle more, and it's been Americanized. I had so many teachers say, can I just call you TJ? I'm like, no, My name is Tanasia. Like, you can learn my name.
Tanasia. No, in fairness, I know a lot of sisters who are named Asia, you know what I mean? And when you put Tanasia together, I just think it's such a beautiful name, and I didn't know where it came from. So I have, like I said, I'm fearless, man. We'll jump right into it because I'm not probably what people would think of as a Courtney. You're probably not what people would think as a Tanasia. So it's awesome to hear that you could share that experience.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I think the Latin X group, they've actually been doing a really great thing about learning people's names and what a sign of respect that can be, especially if their name is a little different, and, asking about pronunciation. So I think this has actually been a conversation that's kind of gotten started and people are focusing on right now, which I love. I was doing some research on you, and I read an article. Number one, I can't believe you hate olives, but that's different.
If you like olives, right? If you like olives and like yellow mustard, there's something fundamentally wrong with you as an individual, and you probably need to seek professional help for that.
Okay, I will tell you, I love olives with jalapenos in the middle of them in a martini, and that is legit good. And I will change your mind. I will get you one day.
So that proves my point. That proves my point. You basically have to be drunk to like olives. And listen, I don't mind that. Listen, I'm no hate here. I'm here for all of the olive love. I'm here for all of it. It's just you're not going to find it here. You know what I mean? I don't even understand how people can pick those things out and actually as a preference and not eat them by force. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love them. And apparently it's very polarizing because in the comments, people are like, I love them, I hate them. And I never realized how polarizing olives could be overall. So
well, here's what they don't realize. This entire conversation is going to be about olive. Like, they didn't know what they were tuning into, but now that they realize it's just going to be about olive hate, they're like, I don't know if I'm into all of this hate on olive.
This is not what I signed up for.
Exactly.
Okay. So,
sorry, you were going to ask a question. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Oh, look, I have olive love in the comments. I just want to point it out. So just so you know.
You do realize, and you act like none of these people are being paid handsomely to say this. You know what I mean? All these people are sponsored.
If you love olives, I will send you a Black Cat's Rule sticker. You just send me a message, okay? Just put it up there.
Dr. Callie, if you really do like olives, we are ceased to be friends, okay? So I just want to let everybody. Oh, okay. Derm Dr. Jem shouts out. Thank you.
No.
Big up for the olive.
Not okay. Okay. For real though. Sorry, that was really high schoolish. But I was doing research and I read something from 2019, and you said in 2019 that you were the only, as far as you knew, African-American boarded surgeon. Is that still the case? Do you know if that's still?
Sure. And this is an excellent point, because I want to amend that a little bit. At the time, that's all I knew, right? And so I've had the pleasure of serving on the DEI committee and the ACVS, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. And I could fill us out maybe as far as African-American veterinary surgeons, probably on two hands maybe. That we only have objective data from 2015 looking at the percentage of African Americans and how diversified the college is, and it's less than 1%. But here's the larger point that I think is really important to bring up, Tanasia. Is it okay if I call you Tanasia, or should I call you Dr. Crocker?
Please.
Okay.
No, call me Tanasia. Right, I might still call you Dr. Campbell just because I'm in the South.
No, you gotta call me Courtney.
It's really hard for me. It's really hard.
So, but here's the point, the larger point. I think it's important to double down and double underline and highlight, is that someone can feel alone. Someone can feel like they are the only one. Even in the event where there might be 9, there might be 10. The fact that we are now still in single digits, we are still counting how many, I could name them on my hand. I think that is kind of the point that I think that comment underscores. So I definitely, at the time, I definitely want to amend that, because at the time I didn't really know who was boarded. And then I started to reach out to the college and say, hey, listen, it would be interesting to get this data, because in my opinion, what gets measured gets improved, right? And so, at the time they said, we don't keep this data. And so for me, it was like, okay, so if we're not measuring it, how are we going to,
don't know.
How we don't know. And if you don't know, it's hard to, it's hard to improve that. So I think at the end of the day, if you are in a profession, for everyone out there who you either feel like the only one, or you feel alone, or you feel isolated. This is part of the beauty of making that connection, Tanisha. And that's why I'm so happy I get to connect, because through this medium, you can connect to all sorts of people, so all sorts of organizations, so that regardless of how you feel, you know that you're not the only one.
Well, and I will tell you from my experiences joining kind of the Instagram community and learning more about the industry, I didn't know the statistics. And I come from Texas, and so I naturally kind of felt like where I'm from, I already knew it wasn't super diverse, and my vet school class definitely wasn't diverse. And
Right.
so, but actually hearing the numbers, like 1-2% is, to me, it was like mind blowing. And I
Sure.
was like, we can definitely do better. I mean, we can do better. And I think there are some people who have known about it for a long time,
Right.
but nothing's been done. And so it feels
Right.
like maybe more people are now coming all together and saying, no, we need to do something. We need to change something.
I love the way you put that, coming together, because I describe it sort of as a coalescence of consciousness. That's kind of what the latter parts of 2020 felt like for me, where obviously you had a tragedy, right, originating from the tragedy of George Floyd, and this reawakening of sort of social justice. And then everybody takes a magnifying glass to their own backyard. And for us, it's veterinary medicine, right?
Right.
And so as they take a magnifying glass to their own backyard, and this is happening through corporations, through other companies, through all the healthcare fields, they're starting to look at, hey, what can we do? What can we do to improve social justice, and why does diversity matter? You know what I mean? And yeah, I just think it's really important. So you are right. It is coming together. Some people, and listen, let's be honest, like I said, we're fearless, you and I. We're going to jump right into it. But at the end of the day, you're going to get some pushback. Hey, I don't see it as a problem. Why do we even need to talk about this? This is not important. And I would just say, you know, that is also another component, is understanding why it's important, and then understanding the state of affairs and what we're dealing with.
I think that I wanted to have a surgeon on, but I was even more excited to have you on, because I feel like you had the journey, and I kind of know about what you did, and we're going to get into what you did in vet school and, you know, for your internship and all that. But there was an added layer.
It could have been any surgeon. I mean, come on, you didn't. What was it me?
I think we have to recognize there was an added layer to everything you did. There was a little extra that you had to think about, or you had to do, or you had to make sure you made those connections. And so I think that those things are relevant to what's going on right now. And I actually have had quite a few students reach out to me and say that they wanted to connect with you, and they're so excited about this because
that's nice. That's humbling. That's really humbling.
But they really they want to be a surgeon, and they don't see that many Black surgeons. And so it's one of those things, which I'm going to send them all your way. Just be ready for it. But
I take all comers. But you bring up a larger point, and that is, if you are selecting from and listen, let me be clear about something. I don't follow the NBA as much as I'd like to, or that I used to. Back in the day, I used to be a huge NBA fan. But I'm old enough to remember. A very pivotal and talented player by the name of Yao Ming, right? And Yao Ming from China, super tall, very, very talented, and just took the league by storm. And it kind of surprised people because they just didn't expect it. But I just thought, when I heard that example, I just said, this is the beauty when you expand your mind outside of your current talent pool. This is what happens when you can say, let's pull from diverse talent pools and see who's out there and what they can bring to the table. Because at the end of the day, when you start to pull from these talent pools, that's what creates that robust creativity and that robust platform, or what undergirds the advancement and the progression of the profession, is that you get pulling from ideas and spitballing ideas and crowdsourcing ideas from a variety of people. And if you can do that from a variety of ages, background, races, orientations, that is, to me, what creates a very full and robust profession.
Well, and it's been statistically shown that the more diverse and inclusive you are in your practice, the more successful your practice will be. Like, as a team, you're servicing more people, because guess what? Your clients are not all going to look like you. And so having people from different backgrounds to share ideas and share what they would think about different things or how their experience would be, I think is extremely important. And I'm thankful to, it sounds silly, but social media for kind of opening that up to me, because I always felt like I was an open-minded person. But then if you don't connect that much with people that have different experiences, your bubble is very small. So I feel like my bubble's been expanded, and yeah, I'm excited about it and to learn more. So.
And that's precisely my point, is that the bubble expands. And so let's say you are on a residency credentialing committee, or let's say you were on a residency selection committee or an internship selection committee. If you only pull from your bubble, right? If you only pull, I mean, let's be honest, in Asia, there's a reason why nepotism exists, right? Because you feel comfortable with your family. You feel comfortable, you know what to expect, you know there's going to be a certain loyalty there. And sometimes we'll use the term, we'll throw it around, Insta fam, or hey, what's up, Facebook fam, and stuff like that. So when you look at your network, and if you are only selecting from your own network, which before social media, I know this sounds like ancient history, I'm really dating myself to say before social media. But if you are picking from your network before social media, then consequently that you start to see a more homogenous profession. So when I say something like, hey, 99% of veterinary surgeons are, a certain, are homogenous or a certain race, that is not, it's not by accident, right? Because you're pulling from that certain network. So I think you're right. There is now a need and a desire, which is beautiful, to expand that bubble, to get outside of that network and start to pull from the diverse talent pool.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I'm already like, this is awesome, but let me take you back. So I'm going to take you back to, to pre-veterinary. And you graduated, I think, 2005 from Tuskegee.
Oh my goodness, you are telling people how old I am. This is horrible.
Listen,
I have no idea. I got to hide all this gray hair. Give me a second. Let me get a Sharpie or something. I got to look around and hide all this gray hair I've got.
Did you know that olives have anti-aging properties?
So do blueberries, man, but they taste way better. Oh my goodness. Goodness.
So you're
2005. Shout out to Tuskegee. That was probably, and it probably was, and this is a fact, the best year ever to graduate any class of veterinarians in the history of veterinary medicine was 2005 in Tuskegee. And I mean, obviously we can compare facts and stuff like that, but that probably was the best year. And then after that, it was, as they say, it's not a destination, it's an adventure. So that's when the adventure really started.
So when you were in veterinary school, like, when did you say, I really think I like cutting into stuff and fixing stuff, and, I really think I want to do this surgeon thing? Like, what was the moment that kind of hit you? Or was it even pre-vet?
Yeah, it never hit me, honestly, Tanisha. When I was in vet school, I was 100% convinced I was going to be a radiologist. And this will happen through anybody who's listening who's in their pre-vet, or I call it pre-vet. So even if you're in undergrad or even in high school, or if you're in vet school, whatever, the bottom line is this will happen to you, where you will meet a very talented, sophisticated, intelligent clinician, and you become sort of motivated and inspired by that person's personality and their talent level, and then that turns you on to that particular discipline. So what you have to do is dial that back and say, okay, this person I'm meeting, this mentor that I'm meeting, is absolutely an outstanding individual. But does that mean that I want to be an internist? Does that mean I want to be a dermatologist? Does that mean I want to be a radiologist? So I met a doctor by the name of Dr. Michael Bailey, and this dude was just absolutely incredible. His breadth of knowledge was so impressive. I said, I want to be just like this dude, man. If I have to be a radiologist, that's what I'm going to do. So I went all in. I'm talking like poker chips, all in to, be a radiologist. Okay. I did a rotating internship in Florida, in Maitland, Florida. I worked with arguably the best or second best radiologist in the nation. I had done plenty of presentations on positron emission tomography and nuclear scintigraphy. And I applied for a radiology residency. Now, here's where the inflection point becomes, Tasia. This is very interesting.
What? Right now?
Tanasia, just say the truth. Am I blowing your mind right now?
Yes.
No,
yes.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, so here's the deal. So this is where an inflection point, because right around that time, it became very sort of a prerequisite for obtaining obtaining a residency, which was called a specialty internship. Okay. And there were a lot of people who were coming right out of their rotating and going into residencies, but it started to become so insanely competitive that right around that time, there was this shift where if you wanted to be a surgeon, you had to do a surgery internship. If you wanted to be a cardiologist, you had to do a cardiology internship after you're rotating.
Right.
And so I didn't get a residency in radiology. I didn't match. And so I was depressed. I was sad. And so I started to call around and I said, hey, listen, I know that there is something called a surgery internship. I haven't heard of a radiology internship, but I'd like to do it. And I'd like it to blend right into a radiology residency. Now, here is the lift that I was trying to make. I was trying to invent a position to somebody and then convince them that I'm the best person for this new position they literally just invented 5 seconds ago. It was absolutely insane. But I had one school who you bit on that offer. And they said, Courtney, this is excellent. Let's do this. And so essentially I secured a radiology internship that was going to blend into a residency. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is great. Because, you know, the tough question at the end of an internship is, what are you doing this summer? What are you doing this summer? And if you don't have a residency, that's a tough question to answer. So I said, oh, I'm doing a radiology internship. And lo and behold, I get the call. They tell me they ran out of funding. Now, could they have been just trying to let me off easy or what? The economy at that point was starting to decline. It wasn't in free fall like it was in 2008, but there were some issues there in terms of the economy and schooling. And so I said, oh, I was so close. But that turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. So anybody who is experiencing disappointment, or if you feel like, oh, man, I just got the most disappointing news. I know it sounds cliche to say this and sort of trite to bring this up, but that could be, that disappointment and that failure could turn into one of the best decisions. Because I went up to Connecticut, I worked as general practice for 1 year, and I realized that the closest I would ever get to my patients, or at least for me, was an ultrasound probe and some gel. And this is not throwing any shade at radiologists, trust me. Anybody who's listening, no good. So, you know, it was an ultrasound probe and some gel, or in a dark room looking at MRIs and CT and stuff like that. And I said, I don't think this is going to be the best utilization of my talents, right? What little talents, and that's in quotes, and you know, I use that term very loosely. So then I discovered that I actually enjoyed doing surgery, and then the true adventure started. Because today I had a lot of catching up to do. A lot of people, if they knew they wanted to be surgeons, had really honed and refined and worked on their fine motor skills earlier in their career. But as a radiologist, you just need to click a mouse, so to speak, and then move the ultrasound probe. So for me, that wasn't quite there. So I set out on a journey to improve that in spades. I worked at a humane society. I did high volume spay neuters. It just sounds crazy. I did little arts and crafts. I was cooking. I was walking around my house flipping back scissors and hemostats and all kinds of stuff, just basically to say, hey, are you going to take this journey seriously? And that's when I accepted a surgery internship in Las Vegas.
So, okay, let me just recap here. You go to school and you go to Tuskegee, and then you meet an awesome clinician. You're like, radiology's it, love it, love it, love it. And then you do rotating internship. You look for your radiology internship. It doesn't work out, and you end up as a surgery intern. Right. This is okay. So did you network too? Like, do you feel like relationships that you built helped you get that internship, or was it just it just happened? Like you were just aggressive and contacting people and trying to find a place. Like what helped you find the internship you eventually got?
Oh yeah, and that is the key. Anything you are doing in vet school, or if you are pre-vet or wherever you are in life, understand that the relationships you make could influence everything about your career. I know some people put it more crudely. They'll say your network is your net worth. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I will say that your network is so important. you want to know how I found out about a surgery internship?
Yes.
It was through my connections I had made when I was a Purina representative in Tuskegee. So as a Purina representative, I had been, I'd been working a lot with my classmates on this, and it was a lot of fun. And I would go to these Purina retreats during the summertime. And big shout out to Purina. They were awesome during these retreats and just treat us so nicely. And I made a few connections there, particularly with a clinician out in California. And we kept in contact, boom, boom, hitting up, I think text message was around there. We call, email, all that sort of stuff. And I told her about my plight. She said, oh, by the way, there is a surgery internship available in Vegas. I said, get out of here. Are you kidding me? And then I ended up taking it. Now, here's what was interesting about that particular internship. At the time, we were kind of, Las Vegas Veterinary Referral Center, we were kind of the only show in town. So what that turned, and of course, I don't mean that literally. Of course, there are other surgeons. There are a lot of people doing surgery. But as far as a brick and mortar center for specialty, it felt like that because we would just get referrals from everywhere. Okay. And so we'd walk in on the dry erase board, Tanasia, and we'd have 13, 14 procedures, on a surgery day. And the surgeon would just look at it and just say, well, we're just going to start at 8 and we're just going to keep going until 5 or 6. And then we just got to stop. You know what I mean? And of course, I'd have paperwork till like 9 or 10 at night. Yeah. But it just enabled me in that scenario to, again, work on my fine motor skills, get better and stuff like that. So it was just a remarkable journey to go from a radiology intern in interest to now I'm in Las Vegas. If you told me, you said, hey, you're born and raised in Connecticut, right? Yeah. And that you're going to live a year in Vegas on the Strip, you got to be kidding me. You know what I mean? It blew my mind.
So I have, in all these talks, I feel like every single specialist has had a moment like that where they didn't end up at the place they thought they were going to end up, and they ended up at a place that fit them better. And a majority of the time it has been through networking. And I always say it's not always what you know, it's who you know, and not to discount the knowledge that we have, but guess what? Everyone has a lot of the same basic knowledge, right? But if your personality or your work ethic or something else stands out and someone makes a phone call for you or a reference has a personal connection, I think that goes really, really far. Because if you call me and you say, this student's amazing, I know you guys are hiring, I really think you should take a closer look at them. That is going to go further with me than a resume that has 20 million things on it, because I care more about your character. I can teach you to be a better surgeon, to be better at medicine. I can't change the person that you are. Does that make sense?
No doubt. And here's why I couldn't agree with you more. Here's why, right? Because when it comes to applying, and this is just my humble perspective, there's going to be plenty, I'm going to get blown up in the comment section for saying this. But right. Wait till you haven't even heard it. Wait till I'm just kidding. Okay. I'm just kidding. Right. I just think that what you said is so critical, because if you're going to look at a resume, some people do this, and they look at the list of references and go, oh wow, he's got a bunch of list of references. I don't know any of these people, but I do know that Tanasia worked here, and I got a buddy who works there, and they just jump on the phone, they just call their buddy. Wasn't even on your list of references. And that's probably what stymied a lot of my processes, because I think it's fundamentally important. If somebody said to me, hey, Courtney, I really want to get a residency in fill in the blank, right? I would say it's so important that at some point in your career, in your academic career, you go and visit those places, because they're deluged with applications. And if you visit, they go, oh, I put a name to that face, right? Oh, I was expecting a blonde female named Courtney. That is not what I'm seeing, right? So they start to put a name to the face, and that helped. Because I was so radiology focused, because I was so into radiology, I didn't go visit surgeons. Yeah. So I had no network. I was essentially starting from scratch. So I'm not going to blame it necessarily. I'll blame it on myself in the fact that, and you and I will get into this, about how our careers, a lot of people think that they're preordained, that we just knew what we wanted to do the moment we came out of the womb and stuff like, you know what I'm saying? We'll talk about that. But for me, that is emblematic of the fact that I didn't know. I thought I wanted to be a radiologist, had established a very thorough radiology network. And that did not come, I couldn't utilize that network when I was pursuing a surgery career.
So I think that there is a lot, and I love that you kind of had like a gap year where you did general practice and then you found what you love. And I tell students all the time, like, if you aren't 120% about the specialty, like, get out and practice, work a little bit, figure out what you really want, because once you're in it, like, you're in it. Like, it's hard to.
Yeah, no doubt. Choose your specialty wisely, right?
Yes.
So if you don't want emergencies, if you don't want to work long hours, definitely consider derm, right? Or definitely consider ClinPath or something like that. Because if you want to be out there, right? So we used to call one of our rotations, I think in third or fourth year, called Western States. And that's where you go out to Western Alabama on ambulatory, and you just go out there and you start, rectal palps, deparasitize. And, that taught me at that point, hey man, maybe ambulatory large animal, maybe that's not your deal, Yeah. But I had still done beef and sheep when I was in undergrad, and dairy for a minute, just for a little bit. So I still had flirted with that. But right. For someone like you who jumped right into ambulatory and you loved it, I mean, I don't even know.
But I spent like every vacation in vet school, like visiting, shadowing, like I had gone out and experienced it. And I was like, I love being outside. I love being in the truck. I love being by myself and the challenge of just like getting it done. Like it was my thing. And I was totally.
Wait, time out. Okay, we got to dial this back for a second. You're telling me you liked being out there in the freezing cold with no help, trying to deliver who knows what out in a field. You love that. That was a challenge to you.
I did. And I still enjoy, I do a little ER relief, even though I work a full-time general practice job, because I like not knowing what's going to walk through the door. Like I'm going to show up somewhere. Right. And I get out of the truck. My husband would sometimes go with me if I had never been somewhere before. And he's like, you're going out in the middle of the night. Like, I'm gonna go with you. And people would come up to him and be like, hey doc. And he's like, no, she's the doctor. Like, I'm just here. And I liked showing people that I can handle it. It's kind of like let me show you I have what it takes. And so
I like that little nod to Women's History Month right there, where you show up and they immediately go to the guy like, hey, Dr. So-and-so. And he's like, no, she's the doctor. And that happened probably so many times.
It did. And then it was fun to kind of have them say it. And then by the end, they're like, oh man, doc, thanks so much. Like, I appreciate you. Like, that was great, And so it was just kind of that expectation wasn't what they expected. And then I get out there and I'm able to fulfill it. So
you and I definitely share that experience. I've definitely been in groups of people and they'll say, okay, so you two are vets. And then they'll look at me and be like, so what do you do? Or you're, and they're like, oh no, he's a vet too. And he's like, oh, sorry, I just didn't know because, and they'll obviously come up with some excuse. But yeah, it is definitely, I mean, like I said, you and I are fearless. We'll go there, but it's not a lot what people are expecting. So I'm so glad that you brought that up. But listen, I'll tell you what, even after Vegas, that adventure didn't stop there, man. I had a critical choice to make,
So what was the next choice? You had a residency next, right? Or did you do the match?
No, that's where, so that's where, so match day comes out, right? And the match day is like, it's either, they talk about the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat. Yes. Either you're popping champagne bottles, high-fiving your friends, calling your mom, or you're sobbing with your face in a pillow. You know what I mean? You're hiding you just want to go home. No, I am being a little bit hyperbolic. I'm sure there are people who weren't so happy with their match, or people who weren't so sad that they didn't match. Right. But at the end of the day, because I had moved, flown across the country away from my family to live in Las Vegas, match day was really important for me. And I didn't match. And again, let me go right back to what we just mentioned. They probably saw my application and they just said, who is this guy? And you say, well, why didn't you go and visit places during your internship? For everybody who's done an internship, your schedule is insane. Yeah. You have no money to fly all across the country. And it is, what's the best way to describe it in Asia? Indentured servitude. Yeah. So it's basically indentured servitude.
Yes.
And so you can't just fly all across the country visiting places. No. And so they basically probably looked at my application and said, who is this guy? So I didn't match. So now I have a choice to make. Do I give up and just say, you know what, I'll just go pursue another path, either clinic ownership? That's option one. Option two, excuse me. Okay. Option two, do what's called another surgical internship. Right. Or option three, do something they call the clincher. They like to use it, was an orthopedic fellowship, where you are testing out implants, breaking screws, plates, using cadavers and cadaveric bone studies and in vitro studies. And there was something about breaking plates and screws and cyclic and all of that. And I was like,
look at this.
Well, it wasn't necessarily my thing to be in a lab. I really liked the clinical environment. So I said to myself, all right, I can do another surgical internship. So now this is going to be my third internship. And I was like, yeah, but there could be something bad. And like, oh, what could possibly go wrong, Courtney? They'd love you. I said they could look at it and say, this guy has done 3 internships and nobody will take him. There must be something fundamentally wrong with his personality that he just can't land a residency. I mean, what's up with this guy?
Right.
So that people said, Courtney, please, you are so pessimistic and so cynical. That'll never happen. I said, all right, cool. So I do a surgical internship, my second surgical internship, which, I mean, for all intents and purposes, was like the first year of a residency, because I had already had surgical internship.
Yeah.
Again, I don't match.
Okay, wait. Were you still in private practice, or did you do academic? Because that's the other choice you have to kind of make, right? With specialties is, do you go like the academic residency internship route or the private practice? And it sounds like you were more private practice, which I think fits your personality.
Yeah, listen, the private practice is partly, it goes back to something that I was just saying. Private practice is pretty high volume, right? And they just are about, we need to get this done. And in an academic setting, they get a large portion of time to read, research, write papers, and there's very focused on the didactics and the pedagogy of teaching surgery. And for me, I was like, well, I need to improve my fine motor skills. I need to be seeing cases. You can't get good unless you just see cases.
Do it.
So I said to myself, you need to go to a private practice. So I did another surgery internship. So now it's my third internship, still didn't match. So I said, we're borderline on, what do they say is the essence of stupidity is doing the same thing, expecting a different. So I'm borderlining now on stupidity, right? Where I'm like, what am I going to do? Another internship? Like, who does 4 internships? So I just said, you know what? Maybe you've got other potentials or other opportunities. Why don't you go back into private practice? I did relief, and think about this decision. Really give it some consideration, because in all honesty, I mean, you're talking internship, rotating internship, surgical internship, another internship, and your bank account is looking at you like, no, child, you can't, this is not sustainable. So my bank account needed a makeover in a big way. Yeah. And so I had some thinking to do. And I ended up doing relief at a practice who had a surgeon who was looking for a resident. I mean, literally, I'm doing relief. And then they're like, yeah, well, we had a residency program here. Our resident just left. And I was like, okay. And they're like, yeah, so we heard that you were looking to be a surgical resident. I said, yeah. Now, listen, let me be clear. When I originally started looking for residencies, I had grandiose visions where I was going to be at, some academic university or some really large private practice. And I had all these visions of what I thought the ideal residency would be. Right. So when I first started, I was concerned because I was like, this is not my ideal residency. But let me be honest, Tanisha. A residency is a self-motivated learning experience. It is, to put it in the most crude and cold way I can put it is a means to an end. If you would like to be a dermatologist, if you would like to be an ophthalmologist, yes, I think that residencies, the quality can differ. The quality can change. There are some awesome ones. There are some ones that are not so good. But at the end of the day, I put it on myself, and I took personal responsibility for what kind of education that I was getting. If I didn't feel like this particular residency program was strong in one area, then I would use those weeks they gave you to go and get that. So you seek, you get what you seek. If you sit back and you go, well, this is not ideal, they should be teaching me, that can be a slippery slope, because you can finish those 3 years, feel unfulfilled, and wonder, and have some resentment towards your advisor, and you just don't want that at all. You know what I mean?
Okay, so do you think that, because I think that's a personality trait, like you just basically stated, like, you knew you had to get it done, and no one was going to do it for you, and you were able to identify your strengths and weaknesses and know what you needed to work on and focus on, and you were going to make it happen. And so do you feel like that's just you in life? Like, I'm going to get it done, I'm going to figure it out?
Well, listen, I'll be honest with you today. I still haven't figured myself out. And I know you're thinking, hey, Courtney, you're mad old to still be figuring yourself out. But here's the
I'm
thing.
older than you.
Here's the thing. I will be honest with you. I still haven't figured out what is a more powerful motivating factor to me. When somebody denies me an opportunity, or somebody gives me positive reinforcement. If somebody says, hey, Courtney, I don't think you can do this, versus somebody says, hey, I believe in you, I know you can do this, you go out there and get it done. Which motivates me more? Now, I'll be honest with you. I know what I like to hear. I love hearing that positive reinforcement. It feels so good to know that somebody believes in me, to have somebody, I don't want to disappoint somebody. Like, that feels amazing. But at the same time, when somebody tells me, hey, you can't do this, it's like, oh, really? Okay, you got another thing coming. Yeah. So I will say, obviously, there was a passion, there was a drive towards surgery because you love the discipline. But if I have to be, unadulterated honesty here and candor, there was a passion towards the experience and the goal and overcoming hurdles. And so to a certain extent, it's tough to describe this. On one trajectory, I'm loving surgery, right? And then on the other trajectory, it's just about a mission. And so there is this sort of like, if you had told me, like, when I was younger, I said I either wanted to be a magician or a chef. So if you said to me, Courtney, you can't get into culinary school, I would have literally done anything to get into culinary. So yes, I think that the short answer to your question is yes, there was a little bit of personality associated with that, but I also think that the passion can sometimes supersede that talent level. So if, let's say you're not particularly talented at something, right? Like I was saying about my fine motor skills because I want to be a radiologist. If you aren't talented, people are like, oh, you should do what you're talented at. Well, kind of, right? Kind of. But if you aren't particularly talented and you're a little bit lower, your passion can actually supersede that talent and make your talent level come up. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I love that. I love it so much because I think that, again, all of us in vet school are smart. All of us are capable. And right. I think, though, you have to have that self-motivating, I want to be good at this. I want to find my niche. I know I have skills that I've been blessed with innately, but I also know I can get better. And I think that, you have to, I'm the person I always want to be challenged. I never want to feel like in my career, like, that's it. Like, I am good. Like, I never want to learn anything new. I never want to, like, I'm like, what can I learn next? What can I try next? Like, what can
and to me, what's amazing about that is because those themes, thematically, you will have that throughout your life, in my humble opinion. Take, for instance, exactly what you just said. I want to keep learning. I want to know what's next. Those are the same principles that when they did a survey at University of Georgia, looking at letters of intent on applications, the 4 things they looked at were, number 1, that they thought were, okay, so let me just break this down. So they did a survey and they said, okay, here are all the letters of intent. I want you to take this letter, read it, and tell me if you would rank them in the lower third, the middle third, I'm sorry, if you wouldn't rank them at all, right. Number 1. If you'd rank them in the lower third, upper third, and they basically tried to figure out where would you rank this person. And the letters at which they ranked in the top third, the 4 things that they looked at were exactly what you said. Number 1, the ability to articulate experience. Number 2, a sense of maturity. Number 3, the ability that you understand what an internship is. Mm-hmm. And number 4, why do you want that internship? So when you talk to me about, hey, Courtney, I just love learning. I just want to go more. I want to find out what's next. I think that level of intellectual curiosity will get you farther than, a traditional didactic lecture setting where you're, listening and taking notes, you know what I mean? Or falling asleep in the back of the class. Whatever it is, I just think that level of maturity and wanting to know more is thematically what I think a lot of us will experience throughout life.
Yes. And I love all that so much. I do. Okay. So I need to make sure I get everything in, and I'm like starting to stress out a little bit because you have done so much. So
I'll keep my answers a lot shorter.
No, it's not you. It's not you. Everything you're giving me is gold. Like, keep it coming. But you got done with your residency. You're a surgeon. So how did you get into like podcasting, TV shows? There's so much that you do. You're an author. It says you do producing. So talk me through, like, you went through all of this to become a surgeon, and you become a surgeon, but then you have to keep doing more. And I feel like I kind of feel that in my core. But how did all that kind of happen?
Well, it's serious when Dr. Tadeja Crocker is telling you do a lot, which you're like the queen of doing everything. I mean, I can't even admit to that in front of you that I do a lot. I'm like, you do 10 times more. But what I will say is this. I'll give a short answer to this, but I think that there's a larger perspective to look at it. When I was in the middle of my residency, there was a story about a dog who had experienced, a tragedy, and we had fixed them up and surgically, and it was a very touching, heartwarming story. And the doctors came in to feature that. CBS, The Doctors, is a show I think some people are familiar with. It's been on, 14, 15 seasons.
It's just a major network show. Like, maybe you've heard of it. Yes.
Right. So anyway, they came in to talk to us about it. And they had interviewed me for the show. And immediately after the interview, they said, hey, would you mind coming into studio to talk about it a little bit more? And I said, well, I guess. I mean, and so I just meandered down to LA and in the studio, and we did the first segment. And immediately after I walked off the segment, walked off the platform, off the stage, the executive producer came up to me and said, hey, would you mind coming back? And then that one experience blossomed into, 14 different appearances. Now, here's the crazy thing today. Here's what's, and you want to talk about mind-blowing, right? So I'm 11 years old or 13 years old, or I don't even know. And I'm sitting at my dinner table in Connecticut with my mom, watching the show The Doctors. And I remember looking at the show, and my mom loves the show, right? Shout out to Mrs. Campbell. She's amazing, my mom. So she loves the show. And I remember watching it, and I was just like, Mom, you really like The Doctor? She's like, oh, yeah, there's so much great information there. And I was thinking to myself, man, it would be cool to be on that show. In fact, you know what would be even cooler? You know what would be even cooler is if they had a show like The Doctors, but it was all veterinarians, right? Because, I'm biased, right?
Right.
So fast forward, 14 years or whatever, and I end up being on The Doctors. And then a team from The Doctors, I think, I don't know the specifics, but I think they left The Doctors, and they started their own group, their own production team. And I got a call one day, and they said, hey, Courtney, we are starting a show that's very much like The Doctors, except it's going to be veterinarians and a wildlife expert. And I'm like, is this really happening? Because this is what I envisioned, right? And they said, we're starting the show, and we want you to be a co-host of that. So I go from this idea of sitting at my dining room table in Connecticut, thinking about being on The Doctors, then thinking about a show that did not exist yet, and then it becomes in existence, and they want me to host the show. I said, good Lord, this kind of stuff doesn't happen to me. So anyway, that experience, the pet talk on Nat Geo Wild was absolutely incredible, and I had a lot of fun doing that. And then that, as you can imagine, Tanisha, that spread into podcasting, that spread into Vet Candy, that spread into other daytime, or what they call linear media daytime experiences, and all of them have been really, really fun. But I think to the larger perspective, and like I said, I want to try to keep this short, the last thing I'll say is that the larger perspective of it is that we will graduate, or people will graduate from vet school with abilities and talents that were undiscovered because you were so deep in your studies, and you have to dedicate yourself to that. You have to be committed to it. In fact, just to be a surgeon, obviously there's vet school, then there's residency. I mean, I'm flying all across the country. I'm staying late. I'm doing 16-hour days. I don't have time for anything else.
Right.
And when you sort of raise your head above that, you come above water and you can finally breathe again, you discover that you've got all of these talents. And so what I would simply say is, I like to call it sort of like a master or like a modified multi-potentialite, where, a multi-potentialite is somebody who loves different things, right? They kind of, and I said we would get into this, and I'm just going to get into it where you and I, they say, oh, you're a veterinarian. When did you discover you wanted to be a veterinarian? You wanted to be that your whole life, right? And we romanticize this idea that this is all we wanted to do. This is all our talent level. And they're like, you're so lucky that you knew what you wanted to do at a very early age. And I'm like, kinda. Yeah, I knew I wanted to be a veterinarian, but that doesn't mean that there are other things that I don't love to do. And so I think in the heart, even though we're veterinarians, even though we're very specialized in what we do, which is towards animal health, I do think that there is a multi-potentialite component to that, where you enjoy playing piano, you enjoy doing digital shorts, you enjoy, had opportunity to do a voiceover for animation and on daytime TV. So my point is, being a multi-potentialite doesn't necessarily mean you like different things and you're a master of nothing. Right. I think to my point, I mean, you're a shining example of that, of just being completely dedicated to animal health, but continuing to put out scintillating content that people love, and you're engaging, you're smart, you're intelligent, and people just want to tune into you so much. And I think that's kind of the point of it. And that's all I'll say. Like I said, I tried to keep it short, but I think that to your point, all I wanted to say is that there are things inside all of us that can be reawakened once we get our head above water.
Well, okay, let's take that a little further. I personally think veterinarians can be some of the most creative people that I know. And I agree with you. A lot of us don't explore that side of things. I took a lot of drama classes in college because it was really fun. And I love, being in front of camera and talking to people and networking. But I never really, until I got later in my career, started thinking what's next. And then this became like another way, right, to share what I love and my passion and then connect. But I've met so many veterinarians that are so creative and are doing different things and using their talents and skills in the veterinary profession and outside of it. And I think that's what keeps things fresh and keeps you going, because again, you get stagnant and you get burnt out if you don't have things that fill your cup. And puppies and kittens can only fill your cup so much.
Oh, come on.
Listen, I see a lot of puppies and kittens, and sometimes you don't need another new puppy exam. I'll be honest with you. Like, I would rather do a surgery, but I'm not a surgeon. So, but I think it's nice that people don't feel pigeonholed, that, and even that they have to practice. Like, I think you can use our degree and do so many other things, with companies, like with Purina, and you're not actually practicing, on pets all day long.
100%. So, I mean, in a very granular sense, if you said to me, hey, Courtney, in vet school, I think you will be going into veterinary media, or I think you'll be a veterinary journalist, I would have said, I'm sorry, a veterinary what? Yeah. I don't even know if there's a thing. That? I'm sorry, journalist who? What are you talking about? And then the ability to find cases, research cases, get guests on, talk about what's happening. I had the pleasure of just interviewing researchers who are at the forefront of COVID-19 scent detection dogs, or being able to smell the novel coronavirus, and just to be the ability to do those kinds of things and delving into veterinary journalism and being a media correspondent in the veterinary space is something I never imagined in a million years. And that's the beauty of it, right? Is that we are, like you said, extremely creative. We are multi-potentialites. We do like different things. But here, let's talk a little bit, if we're going to be completely honest, right? You and I promised we were going to put it all out on the table, right? Well, let's put it all on the table. You're going to get some pushback. There are going to be academics, scholars, people who are quote unquote purists who say, oh man, you're a TV this, or social media that, or you're on, you do these little video things. and they just don't feel it's legitimate. They don't feel that it's genuine. They don't feel like it contributes to the profession as a whole. And it's interesting because in my experience, those individuals who give you that pushback initially, once whatever content you're putting out becomes popular, those are the exact same people that reach out to you and say, hey, man, I really like that show. Would you mind if could you feature me as a guest or whatever? So I will just say this, you know, for everyone who's doing creative stuff, and I saw just a tremendous groundswell of creativity, particularly during 2020 and in the quarantine, I'd say keep going. Keep producing awesome content, keep being creative, keep being fun. And regardless, you and I find the beauty in it. But if we're going to be honest, not everybody does. No. And if you feel that energy, if you feel that negative energy, just put it in a different box somewhere else and keep doing what you're doing. Because I'll be honest with you, when I was producing content early, there was a show, and I won't tell you the name of it, but the producers had called it, you know, hotbed, right? We don't want to talk about it, but they had called it that. And it's because you had young people in a room in front of a green screen, and there was nobody telling us, hey, that's a bad idea. You know what I mean? Yeah. You probably shouldn't do that. We had no governor, so we were just being creative, being fun, not taking ourselves too seriously. And the downside about the internet is that it's forever. And so the things that I did way back in the day, which I never do now, they last forever. Yeah. So I see some questions, by the way.
So I need to do an internet search after this and make sure I find all of that information.
I scrubbed the internet of all of the horrible things I've done.
You paid some money to get it off of there. Yeah. So I do think 100%. I cannot tell you how many people, I'll put something out, right, that's like, you know, this is one thing I think you should consider when you're looking for a job, because this is really important that you feel supported in this way or that, right? And I will get messages of people being like, must be nice to have a husband that supports you, and I'm single and da-da-da. And I'm just like, okay, well, you can still look for this thing with the job. I mean, the negativity is crazy. And I have a lot of vets, it's funny, who are like, oh, you do like Instagram? And I'm like, yeah, I like do Instagram. And then and then a student will come up and be like, oh my gosh, Dr. Crocker, like, you know, I love this, and I'm so excited to, you know, hang out with you and spend time. And the other vets are like, oh, like you kind of know her, like on the Instagram. And I'm like,
right. That's so funny. That's so funny. You do Instagram. Now, listen, and you and I'm preaching to the choir, but one of the reasons why I am very bad at Instagram is because the algorithm rewards you for putting out content consistently. And if there's one thing I am not, it is consistent. And so the problem with that is, and like I said, I'm preaching to the choir, but it takes a lot of time to put out something that you think would be worth sharing. Now, I can share myself eating an ice cream cone, but nobody cares that I'm eating ice cream, besides the fact that he's like, I thought that guy was lactose intolerant. Why is he eating ice cream? Right? But nobody wants to see that. So my point is, if there's something that I think would be valuable to share and somebody would really enjoy, that does take time, right? And so if you want to do it consistently, it literally becomes a full-time job. You agree or disagree?
I do agree, and I am very upfront that as my account has grown and I have more going on, and I have more people asking for me to create content or do things, that I now employ people that I give ideas to, and they help me create some of the things, like the graphic that I did for you and me. I did not spend time doing that. I don't have time to make graphics, right? So I said, I need a graphic to promote this awesome event. Now I'm here doing the event. It's my idea, right? But I am fine with the fact, and I can afford to have somebody help me with some of those things. And so I think that that is important for people to realize. I do nothing alone. I post a lot of things in the moment and things that happen to me and things I think are valuable. But it's not always me making everything, if that makes sense. No
doubt. And that's why I haven't, it sounds kind of ironic to say this, I just haven't had the time to read that book, The 4-Hour Work Week, because I can't find 4 hours in the week to read that book. You know what I mean? Like, what's going on here? I was like, if I don't have time to read this book, clearly I need to do what you're doing, which is hire and build a team.
Because then all you do, right, is you call and say, hey, I'm going to do this and I just need you to make this for me. And then they send it to you and you can post it, you know, but it's actually doing the nuts and bolts of it sometimes that I don't want to do. I want to be creative. I want to create things, right? But I don't want to actually make them sometimes. I just want to put them out there and share them. So I think that it's really, it's important to be honest about that. And I tell people that, everyone who asks me, students that say, I'm starting an account, how do I build it? I say, number one, don't do it for the likes. Number two, you need to connect and be genuine and authentic, and don't put anything out that's not real. And number three, if you need help with it and you don't have time to study because you're doing Instagram, don't be on Instagram.
Don't do it for the likes, because all I post are memes and thirst traps. I was just wondering, I thought that was like the point of the gram. That's all I put out there. Memes and gifs. No, I'm kidding. But no, you're so right, though. You're so right.
I just learned what thirst traps were. I didn't know that. I just learned the other day.
Oh my goodness. You just learned what it was. That's hilarious.
Okay, well, I usually keep these to an hour, and I wish we could like hang and talk all night, but I want to make sure that, you know, people can sit and watch it. There's a lot that we went over and we unpacked. Tell me if there's anything else. Is there anything, we had a couple questions just about struggles that you might have had being a Black veterinarian and with diversity. I know you talked a little bit about your name and things like that and not being what people expected. Is there anything else major that you can kind of share or you can encourage people in that regard? I don't want to miss anything.
No, I mean, listen, I think you did break the internet just now by admitting you do not know what a thirst trap is. No. But my point is, I think that
she doesn't either. You have to tell people.
But yeah, she's the host of Pooch Perfect. Of course, she's not going to know. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? She's paid not to know what that is. So my point is, listen, I am fortunate enough to be involved with 3 different committees now with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and each of them are addressing a specific pipeline issue. And so I would just say that we are, you know, to go back to something we said before, is that there is this awakening. There is a collected effort. It's something I call a league. All right. There's a league of people who are working towards this common goal. And there's different teams in this league, but everyone is working together. And so for me, I think we've covered a tremendous amount of ground, from, you know, where I started vet school, how, you know, multiple failures, and some of those failures were literally the best things to ever happen to me. But I think more importantly is that they say, you know, smart people learn from their own mistakes, wise people learn from the mistakes of others, right? So when you hear about my failures, when you hear about me going over these hurdles, when you hear about me running up into a brick wall, you can learn from those and say, all right, number one, I'm going to be wise and pick my specialty, you know, very sincerely. Number two, I'm going to start to establish connections. Number three, if I'm going to write a letter of intent, I'm going to be really good at articulating my own experiences. I'm going to show maturity. I'm going to understand why I want to do an internship and show them that I know what an internship is all about. I'm going to make myself a diversified candidate. What do I mean by that? Like I said, I did beef and sheep. I did dairy. I had some research experience. And then finally, the only other thing I would say is, don't be nervous about the fact that you've got all this creativity and right now it feels like it's being stifled. It isn't. It's going to come out once you get your head above water. But whatever you experience, any of those hurdles, brick walls, or impasses, just continue to strive for it and find a different route to get your message out there. That's all I would say. And that is, I think that's words to live by, right?
Yeah, and I love, because I've had a lot of extremely successful people on this Instagram live that are doing.
So basically, I'm the odd man out. You had all these successful people, and then me. It's come on.
The great thing has been all of them have failed at some point. Right. Every single one of them. And so I think that younger veterinarians and students feel like I have to do things in a linear fashion, and if they don't work out the right way, then my whole career is a joke, right? And so I think telling people, it took me 2 times to get into vet school. Like, I am so upfront about my failures because we are people, and we fail, and that grows us, but you have to be able to move forward. And so I appreciate you so much taking time to come on here. When you could like do the doctor's show and you're coming on Instagram live with me, I just can't explain it.
No. I've been listening, in full disclosure, I've been so happy to connect with you, obviously, because for us, I mean, I went to VMX, pre-COVID, and there are so many people, that are online. When you finally see them in person, you'll go, oh my gosh, you're a real person, you know what I mean? So I'm so happy to connect with you, and I hope that when I do see you in person, I could say, oh my gosh, Dr. Crocker, you're a real person, you know what I mean? Well, I think it'll be a lot of fun.
And we need to go like have a martini, but I'll have olives. You won't. It'll be okay. Like,
dude, it's just gonna be an hour of just olive hate. You know what I mean? Just olive hate.
There's someone even said in here, I learned a lot, but mainly I learned how horrible olives are.
There we go. I'm convincing them.
Okay, well, I appreciate you. Tell people the best way to contact you if they have questions or they're interested in surgery and they want to follow up further. Do you have a main point of contact that they can kind of reach out?
Yeah, listen, I mean, I'm on all the socials, right? Just everything, you know what I mean? Not Snap, and I haven't joined TikTok, but I will. But just Dr. Courtney DVM, the drcourtneydvm.com, you can certainly check out. We've got hopefully some really great content coming up soon, some good interviews, some good CE, some surgical CE, and I'm just trying to have fun out here. So if you got questions, comments, thought discussions, check out the podcast, Anything Possible, and we'll just enjoy the beauty of animal health and veterinary medicine. And, and then hopefully you'll be so kind enough we could do a round 2 on my podcast. Would you consider that?
I would be. Yes, I would love it. I would love it so much. I love guesting on podcasts. I don't want my own podcast, but I love being a guest. So yes.
Oh, that's sweet of you. Thank you so much. I'm going to hold you to that.
Yes, I will be there. All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to let you go, Dr. Campbell, and we'll connect again soon. Okay.
Bye. Thank you again. Bye.
Bye.